This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
My next question, because your colleague Jeff Merkley basically said he's prepared to try to shut down the government over some of these sledgehammer actions that he's seeing by Elon Musk. Are you prepared to shut down the government, to join Democratic colleagues who want to stand in the way of keeping the government open?
Well, you have to look at what the Trump administration is doing right now. They are simply trying to dismantle the government. So yes, look, if we have to take steps to be able to hold them accountable, use the leverage that we have to force it, I cannot support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions. And for us to be able to support government funding in that way, only for them to turn it around to dismantle the government, that is not something that should be allowed.
So just to be clear, Senator, you are open to voting yes to shut down the government, to make this point.
This is on them. This is about whether or not they can get the votes. They are the majority. And if they cannot govern, then that's for the American people to see. But I've worked in government. I've worked through multiple government shutdowns. I would be the last person to want to get to that stage. But we are at a point where we are basically on the cusp of a constitutional crisis, seeing this administration taking steps that are so clearly illegal. And until we see a change in that behavior, we should not allow and condone that, nor should we assist in that.
If the actions that the government are taking are illegal, Andy, then you have methods through the judiciary to challenge that and to stop that. Whether I think that should be a thing or not, and I've said plenty of times that I think the judiciary should be dismantled, you have the avenues. But it's crazy that not only that, so there was that video of Andy Kim, a senator from, I can't remember where the fuck he's from, going on Meet the Press to talk about shutting down the government, and all of the big Democrat accounts and stuff are like posting their big win of Andy Kim says he's ready to shut down the government to stop Donald Trump, except that he explicitly went out of his way to not say that he actually wanted to shut down the government at any point during that entire video or interview. There was also another one who more or less did the same thing. This is Representative Val Hoyle from Oregon, also who's also saying the same thing.
What can you do about this? There are some raising the possibility of shutting down the government in March when some of these funding bills come up for a vote. Do you think Democrats should stand in the way?
I think Hakeem Jeffries, I do trust him to be, he is our leader, and we will use whatever power we have. They will need Democratic votes to pass this budget. Yep. And fundamentally, we're not going to vote for something that undermines the American people.
They explicitly go out of their way to not say that they would support a government shutdown, because in supporting a government shutdown, that actually undermines everything that they've stood for the last 20 years. Or I guess since the Tea Party came into existence, whenever that was, about 20 years, roughly 20 years. So it's crazy to watch how they will bend over backwards to say that they're not wanting to shut down shut down the government, because they don't. Here's the crazy thing. They want to shut down the government and not pass spending bills because the spending bills don't have the money going to all the pork bullshit that they've wanted. That's basically what it comes down to. Like, in the past, the Republicans have threatened to shut down the government if they didn't remove all the pork bullshit. Now the Democrats are threatening to shut it down if they don't include all the pork bullshit, or if the pork bullshit is going to be included, but then it's just going to be reallocated to support dismantling all of these institutions and stuff. So, like, y'all do understand that, like, that's the whole point, right? Like, Trump is coming in with a wrecking ball and trying to just take this thing down systematically, one piece at a time. And by like going with a government shutdown, you are doing his job for him. Are y'all retarded? You are. We already know. But so while on the one hand, a bunch of them are bending over backwards to not say that they would support a government shutdown, we also have a bunch of them who are saying the complete opposite and actually making it explicitly clear that they would support a government shutdown. Democrats step up talk about using shutdown as leverage against Trump. Democrats in Congress are growing louder with threats to force a shutdown in March to put the brakes on President Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to overhaul the federal government by freezing spending and dismantling agencies. So the Democrats' idea of how they're going to stop Trump and Musk from freezing spending and dismantling agencies is by not passing the spending bills and shutting everything down. I mean, it's this is like a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off for them. Like, that's what I want. That's what I want to see from this. A growing number of Democratic lawmakers think the March 14th deadline for funding the government gives them the best leverage to pressure Trump and Musk to back off their plans to pick apart the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and other agencies. The fact that they are so hung up on USAID, especially when you see where the money from USAID has been going for all these years, like the fact that they are so hung up on that tells you everything you need to know about USAID. Like the amount of just bullshit spending on ridiculous, insane stuff that really only supports Democratic, progressive, like idealism and nonsense, doesn't actually do anything for the American people. That's the crux of this. They're losing their biggest source of basically laundering money for themselves with having USAID shut down. Let me just say. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. Nobody wants to see or hear that. All right, so carrying on. But they're divided over how hard to push the threat of a shutdown, fearing Democrats might get blamed for a funding lapse that would furlough hundreds of thousands of federal workers and interrupt government services across the country. Democrats say they traditionally try to do everything to avoid shutdowns, but now warn one may be inevitable if Trump doesn't rein in Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. Oh my gosh, if Trump doesn't stop Elon Musk from cutting all of this wasteful, excessive spending, we're just going to have to stop the government entirely. Whew, make it make sense. I never support a shutdown, but I can see where it could happen in this situation. It's an extreme situation. Senate Democratic Whip Dick Durbin said. And Dick Durbin is a complete and utter piece of fucking shit. There are like a lot of politicians in Washington and in the government that are pieces of shit, and Dick Durbin is somewhere near the top of that list. But that's neither here nor there. Durbin, the top-ranking Democrat in the Senate Judiciary Committee, pointed to Vice President Vance's comments over the weekend, suggesting the White House may not heed court rulings blocking its executive actions as a major provocation. I think that's perfect. I think that's exactly what they should do. They should completely dismantle the judiciary and say, fuck you, we're going to do this anyway. But one step away from a constitutional crisis. The constitutional crisis, as you'll hear on Peddling Fiction tomorrow, is their new buzzword. There's already a supercut of a dozen or so different media talking heads saying constitutional crisis. Like, this is their new buzzword. And if we've learned anything over the last few months, it's that whenever they come up with one of these buzzwords, people just end up making fun of it. Like, it's not working anymore. They're not able to drum up the fear porn with this stuff anymore. It's just working against them. People are starting to see the supercuts of constitutional crisis go out everywhere. So I've got one of those. Like I said, I've got it queued up for Peddling Fiction tomorrow. But yeah, constitutional crisis is their new big buzzword. I don't think the Democrats actually know jack fucking shit at all about the Constitution, because if they did actually know anything about the Constitution or read the Constitution, they would know that all of this insane bullshit that they think is evoking a constitutional crisis by it being cut. Every bit of that is unconstitutional to begin with. The constitutional crisis happened when all of this stuff was implemented. This is actually returning us to constitutional purity and getting back to what this country was intended to be to begin with. So the constitutional crisis already happened. Now we're correcting it, you ignorant fucks. Senator Elizabeth Warren, queen of the retards, joined protesters outside the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which shut down operations Monday, to call for Americans to fight back. Americans did fight back. Americans fought back in November when they elected Donald Trump. That was the fight. Y'all fucking lost. Asked at the Capitol on Monday afternoon whether Democrats should wield a government shutdown threat as leverage against the White House, she argued Trump has already crossed that line. Trump is shutting down government now, and it needs to stop now, she said. Senator Andy Kim, New Jersey is where Kim's from, that fucking figures, came hardest out of the gate, declaring he's not interested in supporting a government funding bill that would let Musk and Trump continue to dismantle the federal government. I cannot support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions. Okay. And for us to be able to support government funding in that way, only for them to turn it around to dismantle the government, that is not something that should be allowed. So they're taking the government funding and using the government funding to then dismantle the government. So in order to prevent them from doing that, we're just going to stop funding the government entirely and shut it down. That's your solution. These people truly are just stupid. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody's favorite moron, a leader of the House Democrats' progressive wing, said House Democrats are willing to use their leverage over spending legislation and the threat to tank it to maximum effect. If Senate Democrats don't have the gumption to do what is necessary in this moment, I believe that House Democrats will, she told CNN. Ocasio-Cortez believes Democrats should demand a very high price to agree to a funding deal in the next few weeks. And if the Republicans have any fucking balls whatsoever, what they will say is, you either fund it exactly the way it is, or we're good with the government shutdown. That's what we're aiming for anyway. We're trying to shut this bitch down anyway. So either you come to the table and you do what we say, or fuck it. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to fund anything. We can leave this fucking thing shut down forever. That's the solution. That's the approach that the Republicans should take. Now, Mike Johnson and the rest are a bunch of fucking cowards, so they won't do that. But that's what they should do. Some Democrats think Republicans would get the majority of blame for a government shutdown given their control of the White House and both chambers of Congress, even if Democrats don't provide votes to keep the government open. A Democratic senator who requested anonymity to discuss strategy said, "We're not going to be quiet in the face of strategy of coordinating breaking of laws and running over the Constitution." We've already talked about this constitutional crisis. And that the March 14th deadline may be the best leverage they have. They'll want to keep government open, but there will be conditions on our cooperation, the senator said, warning that GOP lawmakers will need to put guardrails on Musk to get a deal. They shouldn't do that at all. The Republicans should just come to the table and say, this is what it is. Either you give us everything we want and you agree to fund the government to the extent that we're willing to, or we don't have to do anything. This is fine. This is totally fine. The people voted for this dismantling of the government, the way it's being done. We talked about it on the episode the other day. Trump's approval ratings are at all-time highs. Something like close to 70% of the country think that Elon Musk should have some level of say in how this stuff is being done and what's being done. Like this is the will of the people. Y'all want to fight this battle for the Constitution? That was in November, and you lost handily. Now, you just have to go along for the ride. And if you don't do what the Republicans want, the Republicans should just say, okay, fine, then we won't do anything. We'll just sit here. It's all on you. We will, in fact, they should flood all of social media with messaging saying, we have a deal in place. We have a spending bill. The Democrats refused to get on board. Shutting down was their choice, not ours. Like they should get out ahead of this. I mean, right the fuck now. We are literally a month out. Right the fuck now. They should be putting out, this is what the bill says. This is what's in the spending bill. Show that it actually makes sense, that it's not a bunch of frivolous, dumb bullshit that Doge has already been cutting out. Like, show that it is straight up, this is how we fund the government and keep things open. Put that out and say the Democrats won't agree to this, so everything's going to shut down. Make them the bad guy. Like, I don't understand how this is not difficult. This is just a little bit of, like, strategery, and you could fuck their entire world up. Will the Republicans do that? No, probably not, because they're completely ballless sacks of shit. But that's what they should be doing. They need to, somebody fucking hire me, and let's get out ahead of this and fucking, like, rape and pillage all of Washington, D.C. Maybe not the rape side. I don't want any STDs. I mean, it is D.C. after all. Democratic leaders have come under intense pressure from members of their caucuses, donors, and voters to ramp up their resistance to Trump's agenda. A group of 6 Democratic governors, including J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, that fat miserable fuck, and Maura Healey of Massachusetts, told Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in a recent phone call to fight harder against Trump's nominees in retaliation for a freeze on government grants and loans. But leaders and more centrist Democrats are couching talk about a potential shutdown more carefully, hoping to deflect the blame to Republicans in case federal departments and agencies are shuttered next month. Schumer, in a letter to colleagues circulated Monday, insisted Democrats don't want a shutdown, but floated the idea that one might happen anyway unless Republicans make concessions to earn Democratic votes. Legislation in the Senate requires 60 votes, and Senate Democrats will use our votes to help steady the ship for the American people in these turbulent times. It is incumbent on responsible Republicans to get serious and work in a bipartisan fashion to avoid a Trump shutdown. That's not what they should do at all. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries got the discussion about using government funding as a leverage over Trump started in a letter to colleagues last week when he said Trump administration's efforts to freeze funding and lock out federal workers must be choked off in the upcoming government funding bill, if not sooner. Jeffries, however, later backed off the threat, telling reporters, I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. None. You have absolutely none. You have not a fucking bit of leverage. That's how much you have. The American people voted against you. People don't like you. You have fucked things up for long enough. What leverage do we have, he asked. They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. Some Democrats are warning that Trump and Musk's efforts to dismantle U.S. aid is not worth a pitched battle that could result in a broader government shutdown, which could make it easier for Doge to eliminate federal jobs while workers are furloughed. See, this is why they should just Republicans should just hold out. Democratic strategist David Axelrod has warned that Trump would be happy to have a battle with Democrats over foreign aid cuts because many Americans agree with him. A Reuters Ipsos poll conducted earlier this month showed that 56% of adults across the country support freezing foreign assistance. You have fucking lost. You have lost. You don't have a fight. You don't have an angle. You don't have leverage. You have lost. The American people have turned on you. People have seen what you're funding and they don't fucking want it. That's where you are. The Democrats' job now is to get on board and hope that they don't get completely fucking railroaded. Show that you're willing to cooperate and maybe we let you survive. That should be the impetus of the Trump administration, is to just completely and utterly destroy them in every fucking way possible. And tell them, if you're willing to play ball and go along with us and help us make this happen, we'll let you stay standing at the end of this. We won't knock you down for good. We'll let you come back. That's it. I mean, you have the will of the people. You have the majority. Do it. And don't hold back when you're doing it. Don't hold back even a little bit. Senator Mark Warner, prominent centrist from Virginia, questioned whether Trump would stick to concessions he might agree to on U.S. aid or other locked out federal workers in a funding deal next month. We have to see whether any agreement would actually be honored by this administration. The only agreement that the administration should honor is anything that guarantees what they aim to accomplish gets accomplished. And if you're willing to play ball and participate and make those things happen, then after you show your willingness to cooperate, we can talk about what type of concessions and other things we can give you. Politics is a mean, dirty, miserable fucking game, and it's not for the weak and it's not for the soft. And there are too many weak and soft people who want to go along to get along and play nice. As soon as you have power, you have to learn how to wield power effectively. And in order to wield power effectively, you have to be willing to make the other side more uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable yourself, but make sure that they are more uncomfortable than you are. Strategic losses, all this stuff, there are certain things that it requires a level of sociopathy to grasp the best way to tackle some of this stuff. And I fucking love it. It's like, these are the things that need to be done. And somebody just needs to fucking sack up and do it. And the Republicans lack that, except with Trump and Musk. And maybe, and Tom Homan. Like, there's not a lot of others. But it seems like Trump's cabinet is putting others in place. And that's why the cabinet picks should be supported. And that's why the House and the Senate Republicans need to just get on board and fucking do what's necessary to get this shit done. Period. Be fucking ruthless. Shut it down. I'm all for it. I think everybody is for it. Over 50% of America is 100% for shutting it down. Make it so. Make it so, number one. All right. That'll do it for me for today. I actually have my daily episode did not upload today, so I have to work on getting that uploaded again. My stupid fucking computer decided that it wanted to run an update in the middle of the night, and it just canceled all of my upload stuff. So I'll try to get it out. Actually, I try to get it out, like time it where that it drops this afternoon around like drive home time, so people can listen to it on their drive home from work or whatever. So anyway, the regular episode will be out today. It's just not out right now like it should have been. Again, I apologize. Blame this stupid fucking thing that sits here next to me and actually makes all of this possible. It also makes things impossible at times. That'll do it. I will see you later.